I think of my wife.
It seems like movies don't get made these days unless they start with narration. Movie thinks it can sneak a Tyler Perry credit by me, hoping I won't notice, and wrongfully hoping I've forgiven him for Why Did I Get Married Too? The morning of what? The morning of what? Yeah, we know it means this is the morning of her disappearance, but won't her disappearance tell us that? Okay, damn it. If half this movie is going to be Ben Affleck staring off into the distance somewhere, then I will be gone, girl. I mean, I won't be watching this movie anymore.
I got your present.
Oh, Mastermind. Was Clue too subtle for this movie about mysteries and psychological warfare? That said, isn't Clue missing from this stack of games? Oh wait, I forgot. Nick's character is totally clueless in this movie. That crazy brilliant-ass Fincher made me think my way out of a sin. But sin regardless.
5 years.
5? That came fast.
And furious.
Please don't name the franchise that shall not be named.
I'm so crazy, stupid, happy.
Diary reading and narration.
They already relieved me of my artisanal meat platter.
Finally. Someone tells me how to pronounce that word.
Me?
Cutesy 1930s quick-talking patter in lieu of speaking like normal modern humans cliché. Tone it down, Nick and Nora.
Ironic hipster, so self-aware it makes everything a joke.
Nick really knows the way to a woman's heart. Stereotyping. Tuxedo Guy was allowed into what seems to be a relatively classy party. Since he's become an amusing part of Nick and Amy's conversation, I can only assume he was invited by the screenwriter.
Ironic hipster, so self-aware it makes everything a joke.
The only way this scene is even remotely believable is if we find out this is actually some 500 Days of Summer fantasy sequence that he's playing in his head to psych himself up to go talk to this girl.
I think it's your chin. It's quite villainous.
Maybe that's why Batman seemed like the bad guy during that bold movie I watched that one time.
You have to see this.
Apparently Nick knows New York so well, he knows an alley where a bakery creates a virtual sugar storm and he'll have an excuse to kiss this woman he just met. Also, Amy follows a man she just met down an alley without any question after he says you have to see this. It's amazing everyone is so surprised when she goes missing.
I have to kiss you now.
Missed opportunity for a sugar pun, but who am I kidding? I would have sinned them for that too.
Nick Dunn?
Is she asking him this like a caveman? Oh wait, Nick Dunn is his name. Got it. Even though Nick lands on the get married block, he lets Margot spin and doesn't take the honeymoon spin, the rules dictate, because he doesn't know how to play the game of life. Wait, maybe that's an extremely subtle metaphor. God damn it, -1 sin.
There's no good gift for wood.
I know. Go home, f her brains out, slap her with your penis. There's some wood for you, bitch.
Margot says almost exactly what I am thinking, which is definitely a sin.
Thanks, Walt.
Neighbor Walt called Nick at the bar to tell him that his cat escaped, but didn't go get the cat to keep it safe. Also, the cat stayed in the front yard from the time of the phone call until Nick arrived home.
It's a guest bedroom there. Cat's room on the end.
Just a minute ago, we saw that Nick decided to put the cat in his bedroom, so if the cat has its own room, why not there? Detective has some sort of endearing way of marking crucial areas of a house with little sticky notes, instead of, I don't know, taking pictures. Detective Boney only marks the blood spatter over the stove, even though there's clearly visible blood spatter on the bottom cabinets too. Unless Amy attended the lesser-known Radcliffe College at Harvard, they definitely spelled Radcliffe wrong on her diploma. Also, I'm pretty sure the person who's signed as the president of Harvard is named something McKee, and not Neil R. Rudenstein, who was actually the president of Harvard in 1992. Overall, I'm seriously doubting the legitimacy of Amy's Harvard diploma.
Curious whether it's difficult for you to see Amazing Amy heading down the aisle.
And this big party celebrating this fictional wedding?
Because it's my understanding you are not married.
These journalists and bloggers decide to take turns asking a section of the same question, like they're playing an improv game.
We also bought Nick his very first pair of scissors.
Nick, an adult man, didn't own scissors until, at most, 2 years ago. I don't care how much of a slob you are, everyone needs to cut with scissors.
Challenge me. You surprise me. And you have a world-class vagina.
Who says this to a woman he loves in front of a whole bunch of reporters, except me to Serena Williams just before a whole bunch of French police come out to tackle me?
All of a sudden, I feel like I'm in a Law & Order episode. Da, 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 da.
By the way, if you don't know Nick is painfully unaware of his own actions during this investigation, this movie will make you painfully aware of his unawareness.
Dad?
Nick's dad just happens to be here at the police station right now, which is convenient for the plot, since it makes him remember to go to his dad's house for the next clue.
You're Nick Dunn. We've been trying to get a hold of you all afternoon.
So, could you not call his sister? I don't understand. Did they find a secret room in this bookstore?
For Amy Tips.
Coincidentally, 4 Amy Tips is the name of a DVD I own that my wife doesn't know about. Also, isn't the 4 superfluous? Amy Tips or 269-8477 is enough numbers.
He attempted suicide after Amy broke up with him sophomore year.
And thus begins the miscasting of Neil Patrick Harris, who was way too well known for How I Met Your Mother and just in general being Neil Patrick Harris when this movie came out. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. You know for a fact someone's going to arrange the letters on this thing to say, help find Amy's one day, so this is pointless.
To be trained and paraded.
Husbands who treat their wives like the highway patrol.
I feel entitled to a scene from Nick and Amy's newlywed years where they aren't discussing how they are so much better than normal married couples.
I think I'm gonna be laid off.
We're in a recession. If it happens, we'll deal with it. I'll probably be next.
Even though Nick and Amy are both highly educated, and Amy comes from a pretty influential family, They both get laid off somehow. Nick thinks he can just park that Volvo anywhere.
Ever seen that guy in the glasses before?
We tend to get a lot of
Do-gooders?
freaks.
So we're just gonna brush past Desi Collins, the guy who Amy's parents claim tried to kill himself after Amy broke up with him. There's no reason to question him, right? Apparently, Margot records baseball games on her DVR, and still hasn't watched the game from June 30th, which is a week old at this point. Also, she records the local news, even before Amy's disappearance, and has a couple of them recorded on July 2nd and July 4th. This is some DVR nonsense no one should put up with. Look, I know Nick is an idiot.
Did you leave a pair of red panties in my office?
No, maybe.
Isn't putting panties in someone's office the type of thing you definitely remember? Like, are you putting panties in so many places that you forgot about the time you left a pair in an office? And isn't that expensive?
I have to check my red panty inventory.
This statement sounds like sarcasm, but I'd be more surprised if she didn't have a red panty inventory.
She wanted a gun. Felt bad, though. She seemed really desperate. Said it needed to be small so she could keep it close.
Amy is either extremely lucky that this guy would say something that would fit her narrative so perfectly, or she paid him to say this. Also, Amy's in Missouri. Why not buy a gun legally? Pretending to be a responsible citizen makes for a much neater paper trail. Know that I'm ultimately confused giving this scene a sin, but it appears the only reason Andy was somehow allowed to sleep over at Nick's sister's house is so he could see her naked again, and because he's the biggest idiot who ever idioted during an investigation like this.
I thought writers hated cliches.
Where would you get that idea? Have you seen the movies they're making these days?
Cable news is all over your shit.
Margot has the fastest DVR on the planet.
Why are you going so easy on him?
James forgot he's a police officer who needs hard evidence to arrest someone, and not 30 minutes of watching HLN.
$117,000 in credit card debt.
For Amy's plan to work, Nick has to absolutely never look at credit card statements and never get a call about extravagant charges, even though he and Amy were nearly flat broke. The statement tells us these charges are 60 days past due. It's unreal he didn't get a call about it, even to discuss possible fraud.
She was pregnant.
Did they use the urine sample that Amy fished out of the toilet that came from the woman who was much further along than 6 weeks, which would show up in the test results, or the blood sample they obtained from the crime scene that would prove she actually isn't pregnant? Movie expects me to believe Amy was able to get all this stuff into her sister-in-law's woodshed without anyone noticing, or getting it delivered to her house without anyone noticing. Also, if someone delivered all this stuff, there would be a record of which carrier delivered it, and the cops would find and question him or her. Also, somehow, Margot's shed was never searched during the investigation, or even walked into by Margot herself. Also, it's crazy the f***ing timing of all this. For whatever reason, Nick decided not to allow the detectives to follow these anniversary clues, which would have led them to this shed of all the stuff she bought to incriminate him, stuff he only found out about when the detectives brought up the money troubles and the credit card purchases.
To fake a convincing murder, you have to have discipline.
In any crime documentary I've ever seen, the investigators seem to have a habit of meticulously tracking the victim's moves and whereabouts leading up to the time they go missing, which sometimes includes what they purchase and what they watch. That being said, no one noticed the fact that Amy had been buying murder-related books and watching murder documentaries on TiVo.
You need to bleed. A lot. A lot.
So much blood that you would probably pass out and be unable to stop the bleeding. But let's just say you succeed in losing that much blood without killing yourself. You will definitely be too weak to finish staging your crime scene.
Burn it just the right amount.
What is the right amount? You don't think anyone will wonder why the incriminating diary isn't completely burned? You could have left this anywhere in the house where Nick wouldn't find it and accomplished the same thing. Instead, you raise more questions.
I went to the beach, I thought about our marriage, I came back and decided I wanted a divorce.
By the time you got home,
She was gone.
Nick leaves out the part when he goes to the bar. Depending on how long he was at the bar, this could be a key part of his alibi. His trip to the bar might make his timeline too short for him to have enough time to murder Amy, store her body at a place that can't be found, clean up the mess, and go to the bar all before going back home and calling the police. Look, I know she's not in makeup or anything, but if her face is plastered all over the news, there'd be at least one asshole who would call and say they think they saw her. She's not in any discernible disguise, not wearing a wig, and still looks like Rosamund Pike. For whatever reason, we needed to see Amy scratching her leg during a midday Googling. It stinks that the Find Amazing Amy website has the wrong hotline number on it. From what I can recall, the number is actually 855-4-AMY-TIPS.
And before he kissed me, he leaned in and did this.
Okay, so this maybe is a fake story that Amy decides to tell the neighbor, but the way it's presented feels like the absolute truth. This is her actually learning about Nick's mistress. But why would Nick rub her lips the same way when there's no sugar to wipe off?
Tanner Bolt?
What? You mean he didn't call first before he came out here?
No, Nick. She is telling the perfect story.
Tyler Perry swooping in and saying what I've been sinning this whole time is not what I need right now. This is the prequel to Batman v Superman, Batman v Wallace Keefe. Be sure to buy Batman v Wallace Keefe, the penultimate edition, in stores soon.
I meet Amy at this party.
Guy carries around a picture of the woman who ruined his life in his wallet because he's a glutton for punishment. I see Amy has finally decided to cover up her appearance slightly, but come on. By now, she's been seen by so many people, right? She just now started doing this. Even though Greta has been following the Amy story, it doesn't strike her that Nancy looks shockingly similar to Amy. It is absolutely insane that Nick is left alone in this airport with every TV playing the Amy coverage. What kind of weird TV show is this that ends at 8:50 Central Time?
I'd like to report some strange activity.
As soon as a call is placed, police can track where where it originated, so the fact that no one thought to investigate the origins of this call continues to prove that Amy is the luckiest person to ever stage a murder.
The treasure hunt is critical. She's taking us on a tour of my infidelities.
Amy put clues in all the places where he banged Andy, but somehow this dumbass realized that's exactly what the point was, even though they're all common places. This also led him to believe he shouldn't share these clues with the detectives, and it's what also led to all the suddenly incriminating evidence being left behind in all three places. Stuff that would implicate Amy more than Nick in a real investigation. This plan leaves way too many things up in the air to chance, and even though I believe Amy knows Nick enough to play him like a fiddle, I can't believe she knows every last detail of how he'd act during a missing wife investigation.
We find Amy. I've got 2 ex-Secret Service guys that are really good. I'll put them on it.
Well, they aren't that good, because they don't find her, nor are they able to retrace her steps proving she staged this whole thing. Amy, who meticulously planned how to incriminate her husband for murder, carries around large wads of cash that easily fall out of her jacket when she gets too excited.
I thought you said you were broke.
How did you know that was money? This shot here just shows a bag with no money coming out of it, and it certainly doesn't look like the bag is filled with money in any way, but it's apparently enough visual evidence to get these thieves interested in robbing her later. Why would you do this?
Hello? Hey, Daddy.
Even though Amy is suspicious and anxious right now, she still opens the door for the drug addict girl from next door.
You say her name's Nancy, but you don't even answer to it half the time. You're hiding, I don't know why, and I don't really care.
Can you not see who she looks like?
I know you, don't I?
This is the #1 reason why Amy should never be able to go out in public, even without makeup. Also, why did she call this meeting with Desi at a freaking casino? The news is on and is audible in this casino. Is this Nancy Grace surrogate lady always on TV? Or is she just conveniently on TV whenever any of the characters in this film turn one on? Even though there are security cameras everywhere, Amy was unable to see that Desi was about to walk into the house. Nick's taking the back way to his sister's house, which reminds me, didn't Amy call about the woodshed like a couple days ago? What became of that, I wonder?
Margot Dunn, this is a search warrant for your property. I usually ignore tip line calls, but a neighbor was concerned about a strange man around your woodshed.
And I continued ignoring that call for a couple of days, until it would be convenient for the story to check into it.
None of this was put here by me.
Which would be easy to prove if they did any actual police work surrounding that stuff, instead of just assuming he put it there and arresting him.
In her own words, this man may kill me.
That's kind of convenient. Damn it, he beat me to it.
Big as a 2x4, right? Big as a club. We found this day one in the fireplace in your home office. We just tested it. Fire doesn't erase blood, Nick.
Oh, f***ing come on. You found this day one, and you didn't bother to check it until just now? F*** you. Did she cut her own hair like that? I don't take Desi for a hairstylist, so that only leaves one option. But based on the way she cut her own hair the first time, that one option doesn't seem to be believable either. Amy stages a post-rape scene for the security cameras, knowing the authorities will view them after Desi is killed, yet doesn't worry about the footage those same cameras captured of her willingly entering the house weeks before. Amy wipes her face with her bloodied hand, and her face remains clean.
Her wounds are consistent with rape.
The doc doesn't continue, and say, also there is no sign that she was pregnant and miscarried, because us doctors are able to detect these things.
Can't blame yourself.
Are all of the federal agents, cops, and doctors in this room complete morons? She meticulously, her words, staged the crime scene to look like someone sloppily set up a murder scene to look like a kidnapping, and up until now, all these guys thought Nick killed her with blunt force trauma, because of the amount of blood and the murder weapon they found. Yet no one is wondering why she doesn't have any wounds that even remotely come close to something that would produce the amount of blood.
Amy, we found her diary. It contains many concerning allegations of mental and physical abuse.
Whoa.
Now Amy is actively avoiding parts of the narrative she orchestrated that give Nick clear motives to murder her, and all of these professional investigators are still f***ing buying it, and acting like Detective Boney is being ridiculous.
There were cameras everywhere. Please find this.
This statement could be potentially incriminating if any of these federal agents knew how to do their jobs.
How'd she manage to get a hold of a box cutter? You had her tied up the whole time. Can't you just be happy your wife is home and safe?
I know James is an awful detective, but his superior Boney is not, and this movie is going to gloss over all the bullshit to allow Amy to be free.
I'm sorry, I feel myself fading.
Well, if she's fading, let's wheel her out of this room and never be questioned again. Batastrophe? Oh, Ben Affleck really likes showing that ass, doesn't he? Wait a minute, did they not wash off all this blood at the hospital? Don't they do their tests and then, clean somebody up and let them rest and What's more, this blood comes off like it's still wet. Apparently, Doogie Howser's blood is resistant to the environment and is simply looking for a new host when it comes out of his body.
Sleep on it.
Did they both take a 3-hour-long shower? Because it was midday when they got in the shower and now it looks like dusk. In Touch magazine definitely covers Nick and Amy Dunn's marriage, but is completely devoid of whatever gossip there is about Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner.
You two are the most fucked up people I've ever known.
Says the guy who created Medea.
Nick, I can't do anything. We had a national spotlight on us. We stained the rug.
Conveniently, this becomes a federal case just because Boney made the wrong arrest, even though everyone in the world thought Nick killed his wife. But even more conveniently, even though Desi was mentioned during the investigation, nobody bothered to check his house or the lake house during that entire scour the countryside search, which would have proved Amy's story total bullshit.
A notice of disposal.
I have that. You threw it out.
The notice? Yes.
Okay, this is just too much deviousness to think about so many steps ahead. Amy apparently threw out the notice so that Nick would think his sperm sample was disposed of, but at the time, she was not thinking about her pretend murder yet. So what was the point of making him believe the sample was destroyed unless she somehow knew her plan wasn't going to work and she'd need it to keep the marriage going afterwards?
You want to stay with her.
I guess if you polled a million dudes and confronted them with the situation that Amy put her husband through, you'd get at least one guy, probably more, who'd stay in the sham marriage just because there was a kid involved. But god damn it, I'm not one of those dudes. There's no way you could stay with a person like this.
What, I thought we were in the trust tree in the nest, are we not?
You're daring me to be someone I don't want to be.
So not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom.
I didn't kill my wife.
I don't care! If you want to see me again, come down and visit me in Florida.
I always believed it was the things you don't choose that makes you who you are. Your city, your neighborhood.
I'll ask if you were assisted in any way. You answer yes, I'll say how. You say I was given the questions and the answers in advance. I'll ask, was this done routinely? You answer yes.
Can I get you anything to drink or eat before we get started?
Oh, I had some gummy bears.
All I've had today is like 6 gummy bears and some scotch.